I'm live now, by the way. We're good. All is fine. Everything's fine.
All right. Hello, everybody. Hello. Can the chat let me know how the audio is? Can you guys hear me clearly? I know you guys got a sneak peek of the background of our conversation. Can you hear us now? Sounds good. Great. Awesome. Thank you, Britt. All right. So if you are new, this is our weekly talk show where we review Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Every week we watch an episode and then we discuss the episode on the weekend. And today we're going to be talking about episode 7, Dax. And my pronouns are she and her. And everybody else, introduce yourselves. Go Wes. Go ahead.
I'm Wes, lifelong Star Trek fan. My pronouns are he, him, and been watching Star Trek basically since I was old enough to talk, and I think DS9 is one of the best shows ever made.
Very nice.
Pinhead, you want to go?
Sure. Well, I am the notorious Professor Pinhead, whose identity must be kept under wraps.
He's under witness protection, guys.
Yeah, really? Okay. For very boring reasons, too. I mean, I don't know what it is. You kill one mob dog, suddenly they gotta put you in witness protection. I don't get it.
The whole thing's just steamrolled from there.
Yeah. It was an accident, too. I mean, I happened to be targeted practically, and he just got in the way.
Oh, no.
It's just that story. I don't know what Uncle Guido's problem was with the whole thing.
The story, he's sticking to it. All right. And we have two special guests here today.
Yes, we
Which
do.
one of you wants to go first?
Jane, you go first.
Okay. So I'm Jane. I can listen to both sides to the point. But yeah, I love Star Trek all my life since I was watching it on next gen episodes with my dad. When I think they were still actually airing in crap. And I notoriously spent an entire summer with my nose in Star Trek Encyclopedia and I had little names for all the different types of phases. And my pronouns are she, her, and they're good to have a person like me around for an episode like this. Let's talk about it.
Here we go.
And Jess.
Last but not least, so my name is Jess. I use they, them pronouns. I am actually, this was the first time today that I've ever watched Star Trek, so I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum.
She's with me.
So,
I mean, they're with me.
Exactly. So,
You're not alone, Irene.
Yes.
I'm not the only noob in the group.
I had watched, there's movies, right? I'm pretty sure I've watched a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I don't know which one, don't ask me. And the only thing that I know about Star Trek is that Red from Orange is the New Black was in it in the 90s in one of the, I think she was in Voyager, the show.
Yep.
So that is literally the only thing I know about the show. And that apparently there's a Star Trek versus Star Wars feud, and I'm on the Star Wars side, but I don't see anything wrong with Star Trek, so we're fine.
The whole feud is stupid anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So, I watched.
If anyone believes in that feud, or if that was just something people said there was.
Yeah.
Almost for marketing's sake.
Honestly, Star Wars and Star Trek are apples and oranges.
That's what I noticed even after one episode.
It's just the word "star" in the name.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
But yeah, no, that's just a little background about me. I'm a variety streamer. I stream on Twitch, and I know Irene IRL. We went to the same high school, so yeah, that's me.
Everybody that's on my channel, make sure you give Jess a follow. Jess press play. So.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. It's gonna be cool. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, no, this is our first time having guest stars, so this should be exciting.
Yeah.
Well, I've been looking forward to this all week. It's like, oh, I get to be a noted guest in a noted place. That sounds very good for me.
All right, so shall we get started?
Yes, so let's get started. So
I have my notes.
you did it. You got your
I
notes.
took notes.
Very diligent.
I try.
All right, so just one thing I want to comment on that struck me right off the bat is they mention they give the reason O'Brien's not in this episode, which is he's going to Keiko's mother's 100th birthday.
Yep.
And this is kind of a non sequitur, but I just wanted to mention this. I did the math. If we assume that Keiko is the same age as Rosalind Chow, who plays Keiko, she's 63 now, so that would make her about like 45 or so at the time of this.
Damn, you went real deep with the math on this.
which says to me that Keiko's mother gave birth to her like in her late 50s.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you can do in sickbay nowadays.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I don't know why I got hung up on that, but I just kind of found that just kind of made me chuckle.
Right? Well, hey.
And then
moving right along, unless anyone else wants to comment on something.
I wrote timestamps for just certain things that I either laughed or chuckled at. 1 minute into the episode, I wrote, "Yikes! Hard pass by Dax on Julian."
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hard pass.
Too. It's like
Hard pass. Just like not good.
I think it's like Julian's insufferable until he isn't.
Yeah.
That's once you start like reading in some hard queer themes, then everything suddenly gets better.
Yes.
Julian thinks he's a ladies' man, but he's not.
Oh.
And you know what else? There was one thing that like stuck out to me was, when she said no, he was sitting at the table and he's like, well, I'm not forbidden, and ends up getting up and following her to where she stays, and obviously that's why she gets rescued, but she said no, dude.
Yes.
And you followed her.
Where was Q in this episode to put him to sleep?
Oh, yeah. Just like it's sort of interesting because I've kind of slowly but surely been going through Star Trek again, watching things with Chloe, but like I think probably for the first time post transition, so things hit a little differently. Like, God, I think there was a Next Gen episode where Riker said, like, I shit you not, he said, "Boys will be boys." It was like, oh no. It's like, this is the 24th century, sir.
They don't have to be anymore.
Oh my God. But, somehow.
Yeah.
Which I think speaks to kind of one of the things about Star Trek, which is that at the time it's written, people are always looking forward, but the writers still have their feet firmly planted in whatever time they're in.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I noticed, like, as I was watching it, that there's a lot of parallels. Like, we're going to obviously get into it as we kind of talk about different parts of the episode, but like, there are some parts that are so what I would describe as like very Star Trek and very futuristic. And then there's other things that are that speak to like very socio-political, like it just has like these really interesting undertones. And that's what I've heard about the show, like before or just about Star Trek in general, before I watched it today. And that's why I was really looking forward to it. But yeah, I flew through the 45 minutes. I was like, that was so good. Like I have no like context, by the way, of like what happens in the 6 episodes prior. So you might have to fill me in on that as we go through. But yeah,
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, yeah, I enjoyed it. It was fun.
We got another convert, Pinhead.
Excellent. Our ever-growing army of observers.
Good.
Love it.
And we will crush the Star Wars fans.
Hey,
Yeah.
listen.
You're
I'm
not
always.
supposed to know it's real.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Look. I'll show you how much I'm kidding.
I will always be
Oh,
a
Obi-Wan
hardcore Star Wars fan. Oh, I love it. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
I also have Sabine Wren, but that one's not as close.
I mean, look who's in the background. I mean, come on.
Grogu!
He's
I
so
love
cute.
Grogu.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Dax gets jumped by some gun-toting thugs. Let's call them what they are.
Yeah.
Another thing that kind of made me chuckle is Julia just kind of casually saunters around the corner and just kind of stares at what he's seeing before he actually reacts to it.
Yeah.
I'm like, really, dude?
Right.
I know you're smarter than this.
I noticed some like really classic 90s acting in this scene.
Mm-hmm.
Very classic. Like I almost felt like I'm sorry, like this is just a noob talking, but I almost felt like I was watching like you guys remember the 90s rendition of the Power Rangers?
Yes!
Yeah. So
no, Power Rangers super fan here.
I love the Power Rangers, but I love the 90s Power Rangers just because like there were just some like I don't know. There were just some points where I was just like, "Oh my god!" I like this fighting scene, like where he like smacks up against the wall. I'm like, "That."
Oh my god! Right?
Oh,
it's just like okay.
yes. When we're off screen, when we're done, remind me to show you the coolest piece of Power Rangers paraphernalia in my house.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But no, definitely got a sense of that. But like, so. Then we cut to Cisco, and like they're looking at like there's some kind of issue with the station, but then Cisco hears that Jadzia has been abducted, which now means that these guys have the Cisco's full attention.
Yes.
And as we have established many times on this show, you do not fuck with the Cisco.
Yeah, you don't fuck with Cisco, the commander.
Not to be trifled with.
Definitely not.
No. So Cisco comes down and he is pissed at this guy.
Especially because this has to do with Dax, and he had that prior relationship with Curzon.
Yeah.
Curzon. So that's extra near and dear to his heart. So that's why I feel like he hops all over it and does whatever he can to save her.
And I think one thing we should also mention, I mean, I think anyone who's seen the episode can glean this from the context, but for people who maybe are watching and haven't seen this episode specifically or are unfamiliar with the wider Star Trek physiology extended universe, shall we say, the Trill are an alien species that is able to host an alien symbiote within them that gives them the memories of all the other hosts of the symbiote. So you can inherit the memories of multiple people. So the Dax symbiote gets inherited by Jadzia. Curzon, as Irene mentioned, was the previous host who was a friend of Benjamin Sisko. So,
and he was a
think
man.
that's one of the more kind of creative elements about this show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like Jadzia is younger than Cisco, but she has the memories of his friend and mentor.
And then where a lot of part of the reason why we have Jess and Jane here is because Curzon was a man, and then
Dirty man.
and then Dax is or Jadzia is a woman now, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna gain some insight on some of this because Wes, Professor Pinhead, and I really don't know a lot. So we're here to listen and learn.
Yeah. I just want to add really quick in my notes. This isn't until much later in the episode, but at 35 minutes I wrote in all caps, "Curzon, you dirty boy."
Oh,
We'll get there.
yes.
Yeah.
Later, I'm just knowing what happens in later episodes. You don't know the half of it.
Oh, well, I already picked up on it, so.
So
existence.
You have so much more to pick up. That's all I'm gonna put.
I can't wait.
Why?
Someone's going back and watching the previous 6 episodes.
I kind of felt that way, honestly. Right after, I was like, I feel like I just missed so much. No, it was good. Yeah, I mean, Jane, I'm sure you probably can add more to this, but just going off of what Irene said, like, there are so many trans experiences, like undertones that are like just kind of talked about, even in just this one episode. Because I read an article about Dax and just that this whole like storyline. I may have spoiled some things for actually I definitely spoiled some things for myself. That's fine. So I understood like the whole like that it was a host and that like just kind of the just like how this is really like this whole plot line is set up, but definitely some experiences and some conversations and some that like I think it completely makes sense why the trans community like kind of it seems has taken Dax under their wing and is like kind of a I don't know the right way to put it, but I don't know, like you could probably go on it a lot more since you're the actual fan, but I picked up on it immediately for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I gotta try not to just, take over this whole thing. Yeah, it's one of those, like, well, first off, like, of its time, this is the best you're gonna get. Our representation was absolute garbage. The Ace Venturas of the world, there are a bunch of examples that I don't want to hurt myself thinking about. And so, yeah, so you get something, what isn't trans but feels trans, and that's the thrill. Just as, it isn't exactly that. It is a different scenario. You have the symbiote, and that goes across different people who had their own lives and experience, they meld into kind of it is different. But God, doesn't so fucking much of it just smack of exactly it. I'm sure if you read the article that spoiled things for yourself, you probably saw her interaction with the core. Curse my dear friend, it's Jadzia, now Jadzia, my dear friend. Why can't every one of those situations go exactly that smoothly?
I know.
I can't wait to subject Irene to that one.
Oh, lordy. But
Irene, it does not have quite the experience with Klingons yet.
Oh,
The only Star Trek experience I know are these 7 episodes, so that's why I'm the noob.
That episode is full frontal Klingon right there.
Okay. But see, this is why we wanted to bring in Jess and Jane, because the undertones that you're picking up, I obviously don't know. I have never gone through any of that experience. So if you guys could explain, as we go through the episode, like what, just help us, understand.
Definitely. We're probably going to talk about the exact same things, Jane. You probably picked up more than I did, but I had things starred all through the episode where I'm like, wow, this is oddly familiar. Like, there's a lot.
It's, I've been sitting on it for a minute here. And I watched all the episodes back in the before times when I knew nothing. Now I'm going through, now that I know this thing. And the contrast.
But in any case, we find out that these guys are after Jadzia because Kursan committed a crime on their planet. He allegedly committed treason and killed this dude's father. And by the way, who else thought, you killed my father, prepare to die?
Actually, what I kept thinking was, what was the evolutionary trajectory of the planet these aliens grew up on? It's just a weird, like, makeup choice. Like, they have those weird raised heads, and I think this is really kind of the epitome of what, people were talking about when they said, the aliens in Star Trek were human beings with goofy prosthetics.
Yeah, pretty much. We get a great scene of, like, Cisco talking about how much Curzon meant to him. All that stuff in this episode is great. I love, like, Avery Brooks is just such a good actor. He really sells, like, just how much Curzon mental, and also just how much Jadzia means to him.
That's Benjamin, right?
Yeah, that's Benjamin Sisko.
Yeah.
That was the first thing that I noticed. I noted that conversation where they did a really good job. Like Benjamin definitely did a really good job, or the actor that plays him did a really good job of kind of like showing like that it was really hard for him. It was like, okay, like I know you're Curzon, but like but you are like physically different in front of me and like all that. The conversation within itself, like I feel like I wrote a quote on here. No, I didn't, but that's okay. Like, I just noticed that it was really hard for, like, he was using like even like he him pronouns when he was like speaking to how was it Jadzia, right?
Jadzia.
Okay, so like he was using he him pronouns like when speaking like directly to her, like it just like you could tell that it was just an awkward but like really like telling conversation. That was one of the first things that I noticed, where it was like you have like that undertone of like trans people that have had that conversation with people maybe in their families, right? That are like, oh, like I remember when you were this and blah blah blah, and like how those like it's a relatable conversation that some trans people have had with either family or close friends or things like that. Jane, I don't know if that's something that you picked up on as well, or
Oh yeah, it's it's a little different. Like one thing that you'll pick up on, I guess, like people are really good with it in Star Trek. If you're viewing her as a trans person, just let's pretend for 5 minutes. Like most people are really great with it, and they don't see her as anything but her right away, no question. And a lot of times, in real life, it doesn't work that way, and it's just you can tell that they see you as before, and it's telling in their language and how they treat you and how they talk to you and stuff like that. Varying degrees of these things, depending on the family member I'm talking to at the time.
right.
But yeah, it's interesting, and there's also others like Cisco runs around calling her old man all the time.
Right. That was something I
good.
noticed too.
Yeah, it's a bad thing. Don't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
But like at the same time, this was also the late '90s. Trolls are what happened when a writer's room assists people go, I want to talk about weird gender things. There's no trans people in the room, and you get that. But then again, you also don't have any of that knowledge out there. So,
yeah, exactly. One other thing that I did notice in this conversation with Benjamin was that Jadzia like didn't seem like she, and we obviously for the Star Trek reasons, like we know why she didn't want to talk about the things that he was kind of prying her about. But that was another thing too that was really subtle, but like she just sat there like really quiet and was like uncomfortable. Like, I don't want to talk about this. Like, I'm happy being who I am, and yes, Curzon exists. You could tell, like, she was like, I'm happy that like Curzon's there and he exists, but like I don't want to talk about this. And like it's I guess almost in a certain way it's traumatic for her. So that is another thing that happens, that is like when you put somebody on the spot, a trans person on the spot, and you start asking them questions and things like that, like it can, that's natural. Or anybody, anybody that you put on the spot and ask uncomfortable questions, they shut down, and you could tell that she just like didn't even want to be having that conversation.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
I can hear you just fine.
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
In the realm of the Zoom call, we are squaw.
Britt's checking right now.
Wait, is it good now?
You can hear her.
That's good, but you muted your mic for stream.
Because yeah, her
Your audio's not coming through on the stream.
She knows, she sees it.
Oh, okay, dope.
All right. Uh-oh. Live, everybody.
Right.
Technical
you know what I feel
difficulties
like, though?
on.
Is it better or is it worse, guys?
Can we hear Irene?
All right, everybody, just fine.
You guys hear me? And thank you for
We can
following
hear
Tito's.
Irene.
But can somebody in the chat let me know if there's still an echo? Is it still bad? And you can hear me softly. Okay. That's bad. But is there an echo though? It's fine.
But are we killing her softly?
Yeah, I started singing that in my head.
With the song.
No echo. Perfect. Okay, we can keep going now.
Singing my life with his words.
Oh my god.
Oh dear.
But yeah, that was really, I mean, those were the two big things that I picked up from that scene. I actually went back and watched it like another time or two, just to kind of unpack it a little bit. Just so you know too, just a little background. I forgot to mention this too, but I have a minor in women's studies. So I took a couple of feminist classes and of all different types of, varying degrees of all different subjects. But one of them that I took was a gender studies in US pop culture. And this class reminds me a lot of the conversation that we're having right now of kind of unpacking it from a gender perspective. So that's why I was like, yeah, I'm on board. Let's do this. Like going back to college, it was fun. So yeah, little side note.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, but moving right along with the story, we get Cisco basically showing up this guy. He says, so if you had the legal right to take her, why didn't you just ask me? And then we have a treaty. Oh yeah, but you don't have a treaty with the Bajorans.
Yeah.
And then he's like, and then one of my favorite bits of the episode is it's like, I don't want to hear from her. And it's like, you are talking to my first officer now. And Kira just, I'm like, first of all, you do not mouth off to Kira Nerys.
Yo, he pulled a picture out and everything.
Oh yeah. Because
That's awesome.
Here's the thing, Cisco is awesome. You don't fuck with the Cisco, but you really don't fuck with Kira.
Picked up on that.
Kira,
She's a bad bitch. I love
she
her.
is. She could be your best friend or your worst nightmare, depending on her mood. And she basically finds a loophole to get a extradition hearing going.
There was one thing that she said during her little monologue when she was calling him out, where she was like, I think she why didn't you just ask us if you could get clearance, whatever. She was just like, that's just, I'm totally butchering the quote, but she was like, that's just annoying. I just thought it was so good. I was like,
yeah,
because she basically, the only way this guy could have gotten schematics, the layout of the station, because it's established that they have to have known the full layout of the station in order to pull this off.
Right.
And the only way they could have gotten that is from the Cardassians. Now, the rest of you know, but Jess.
Tell Jess about the Cardassians.
The
I'm not thinking of the right thing. So.
Yeah, I know. Because the first thing I thought of was Kim Kardashian. When I first saw that.
Exactly.
Not those. No, the Cardassians are
they're far less terrifying.
the big bad of the show. Well, not the big bad, but they're one of the antagonists. They're basically this alien race that had occupied the Bajoran planet for years, and the whole reason the Federation is helping out Bajor is because the Cardassian occupation has just ended, and they need to help with the restoration. So,
and Kira's
if these
Bajoran,
guys,
by the way. Kira, the badass, she's Bajoran.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And if these guys are cozying up the Cardassians, that really pisses off the Bajorans.
There you go.
Yeah.
If you see a fancy earring and some nose ventilation, you've got yourself a Bajor.
Mm-hmm.
Love
Yeah.
it. All right. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yep. But we get another one of many great scenes of our quickly becoming our favorite duo in the show, Quark and Odo.
Yes. I love
Yes.
the dynamic.
Yes.
Enemies with benefits.
Cool. Basically, Odo tricks Quark into renting out his bar for the hearing.
Yeah.
This was the part that I kind of got a little bit lost at, but I could tell that it was I got the humor, but I just was unsure of what was happening.
Like Quark is Odo, I'm sure you picked up, is like the head of station security.
Mhm.
And like Quark is basically this sleazy, greedy con artist type who's always like up to something.
Like,
And he and Quark have this he and Odo have this
Interesting.
love-hate relationship going
Yeah.
on.
and like to
The
give you an
producers
example.
intentionally modeled it after the police officer and Rick in Casablanca.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I didn't really.
Yep, they said that.
I didn't know that. That's kind of
Huh.
cool.
Okay, Jess. Just
Yeah.
to give you an example of like his sleaziness, like in our last, I think it was our last episode, we talked about, because there's a lot of parallels between that episode and like COVID, and like to tell you how sleazy, like there's this deadly, or not deadly, but there's this like super virus that's going through the station, and like everyone's like, okay, you need to quarantine, and he's like, I'm not shutting down my bar, like I'm keeping it open. So that just gives you an example, okay, of how sleazy and
Oh, I
greedy
definitely
he is.
have to watch this show then. Oh,
Oh, yeah.
There's a scene where Quark is yelling at a sick person because he thinks they're faking it to get out of their bar tab.
God.
Yeah.
And the best part is that they say to him, do you really think this person would fake being sick? And he goes, well, I would.
Oh, you have so much to discover. There's much. Oh, you don't even know about Garish here yet. Oh, I'm excited for you.
I don't either.
I'm excited for both of you.
quick question.
You've met Garrick.
I have,
Okay.
I have a quick question, really quick.
Yes, go ahead.
Would this show be a good first show to watch to get into Star Trek, or should I watch something to get more context before?
I would go to Encyclopedia Memory Alpha. It's like the Wikipedia of Star Trek if you don't get something.
Okay.
Otherwise, I mean, this is kind of its own animal in a way.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you have watched Next Generation previous, it helps a bit.
Okay.
Right.
But it's not not necessarily required.
Like, it's one of those things. There's a lot of it. You're talking about, like, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager. These are all shows with 7 seasons, 26 episodes a season, hour-long show. It's a fucking lot.
It's quite a behemoth.
And
Okay.
you don't really need all of it to get the gist.
Mhm.
But at the same time, you do miss some stuff if you don't take a completionist kind of route. I don't know. It sort of depends on if you just want to get your feet wet in the general idea of it, stick around some episodes to get some knowledge, or if you just have all the goddamn time.
There you go.
Yeah.
Is there a show or a movie that you would recommend that gives like maybe the most context to watch before Deep Space Nine, or is it just like nah, just watch it?
Probably Next Gen. Like,
Probably Next Generation if you really want to watch this with all the context.
Okay.
But Next Generation is great in its own right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Okay.
good to know
Like-
for me, because I was gonna ask.
Well,
that question.
that's because subjecting someone to season 1 of TNG is outlawed by the Geneva Convention.
yeah. Oh.
That's
this-
right.
Growing pains.
I remember you guys said that.
Growing pains.
Yeah,
Is
definitely.
it just like a rough first season?
The rough first 2 seasons.
Yeah. There's some gems in there, but not a lot.
They've gotten better. Like, newer Star Trek doesn't really suffer from that. Like, I think every show will always take a couple of seasons to establish itself, growing its feet.
I thought the first season
Gender has a lovely
was
video about that.
fantastic.
Yeah, it takes a minute to kind of where they kind of figure out what they want to do with the characters, what they want to say, and then it becomes stronger from there.
Okay.
And on Next Gen, around that time, that's when Riker grew a beard, so that became but yeah, it takes a minute.
Also, behind the scenes, there was a lot of discord in the writers' rooms, and one thing I can say is that the third season, a guy named Michael Piller had more of a executive producer, head writer role, and you see there really is a change in the quality of the episodes. And Michael Piller is one of the co-creators of this series, actually.
Oh, okay.
Like, gay.
Good to know. All right, so Next Gen. I will look into it a little bit. And is that on Netflix as well?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's on Hulu, too.
And so while Odo goes to, like, investigate this further, the hearing starts, and we meet probably my favorite character in this episode, the Grand Arbiter, who, for those who may have noticed, is Jim Carrey's secretary from Liar Liar.
Oh, yeah.
Probably
Yep.
caseworker from Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yes.
I she's just so ornery and take no shit. I keep expecting her to go, "Here's your raise." Just.
Oh my god! I knew her from somewhere, and her comedic timing, by the way, is absolutely fucking beautiful.
Oh no, she was far and away like my favorite thing about this episode.
Oh, she was
just
wonderful.
Takes no shit from anybody, and it's great.
I wrote down Arbiter, strong Judge Judy vibes, takes no shit.
Yeah.
Strong
She was great.
Judge Judy vibes.
Yep. Yeah, that was my only thing that I took from that I only wrote about her, because that's all you need to know.
Oh yeah, like she doesn't like that little ball she's got.
Isn't that such a trope? Are you in an alien courtroom on Star Trek? That gavel's gonna be a fucking ball of metal, bitch. You're gonna love it.
I loved it.
I don't care.
Joke for
Klingon, anything.
Joke for Jane and Wes. I kept expecting her to yell "Rua Penthe," which is a reference to the 6th Star Trek movie.
I see.
Yep.
Love it.
And so this trial, I think, is where Jane and Jess may take point quite a bit, because they raise a lot of the, like, is Jadzia still Curzon, or is she a separate person?
Ooh, yeah.
That's basically what this trial is trying to prove here.
Yeah.
Right, which is one of the, I think it's very important to remember. Jadzia is a trans. She's a trans icon.
Yes.
Not
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a very different thing.
Yes.
Wait, say that
And
again?
it's important to know that. You just kind of, it's a fucking Venn diagram, and there's a chunky middle sometimes. So, yeah.
You might have to repeat what you said.
I
Irene.
didn't hear what you said. Can you say that again?
Oh,
Jadzia is not.
Like, it's not totally removed in the Venn diagram of trans people and trills.
Right.
Like, there's a nice chunky middle there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of
Essentially-
overlap.
Essentially, she's not a trans character.
Yes.
She's just a trans icon.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, that's exactly what I thought too. Okay.
Yeah.
You just
exactly.
worded it a lot better than I would have.
I like my $50 words. They nice and fun. Yeah. But at the same time, even though it's entirely good, God, it can feel. It has a bit of the tone of just like, we don't believe you.
Yeah.
You say you're this, and it's just like the world going, nah. And that's not a great feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very much they're going after it in a different way. It's just,
Two.
it's hard for like feeling like you're never going to be able to completely erase the before times. There's
Right.
always going to be a little bit of that before that people are going to catch.
Right.
And it can hurt sometimes. There's a lot of trying in this gig, let me tell you. And so you gotta, you have to sort of fight to be yourself in this society. It's
Mhm.
a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And so this has a little bit of that kind of kind of tone to it in a way. It's a murder case, and they're trying to figure that out. But like,
I looked at it from kind of like a writing perspective too, of like definitely I don't remember what his name is, but essentially the guy that tries to kidnap her. I forgot his name.
Like
The one that was like, "This creature is a trill." Like that was one of the quotes that I wrote down. And
not actually writing his name down in my notes.
essentially the son of the general.
Yeah.
So I saw a lot of allyship versus bigotry in this scene.
Yep.
So Benjamin clearly is the ally. He's the one that's actually trying to help, right?
Yeah.
And though slips up a couple of times with the old man and saying he and things like that. Like again, I'm looking at it from a trans lens, not necessarily like it's not what's happening. Like I don't know how to quite
it's
explain
that chunky
it,
middle again.
yeah, exactly. It's just like where those things start to blend and where like, okay, they're being very purposeful with like how they're framing this this conversation. So there's I mean, like again, when he says this creature is a trill, or when Benjamin is trying to describe like, hey, it's a different host, it's a different person, like they're saying those things very, very purposefully to kind of give you insight of just like how trans people might like hear like bigotry, and how they might also hear supportive thoughts or supportive conversations, I guess. But it was there was definitely a huge contrast between the two characters and how they were kind of approaching the trials and how they were approaching her. And like I again, another scene that I watched over a couple of times because I was like, wow, this is good writing.
Oh yeah, it's like, and God, I say it's a room full of cis writers for all I fucking know. Who knows? Like, sometimes it gets it so right, you can't. It feels like this couldn't be completely by accident, right? But I don't. That's a googling I haven't done yet, so who fucking knows? Yeah, it is amazing how much kind of lines up.
In addition, this scene also gives us some good like background on the trill species, just how they work, like what they're all about, how this trill symbiosis works, how like it's considered this great honor, which is also just very interesting. And and like to become joined is a great honor. And like Jedzia wasn't just like given one of these like right off the bat. She had to work for it.
I actually have a question for Jane really quick. Did you pick up on there was a part during that little monologue that was happening when trills were being explained and kind of like how it was a huge honor, and I think Jadzia, she mentioned at one point that like they were talking specifically about why they decide to join and be a host essentially later on in life. I picked up on something a little bit that I don't know if you want to elaborate.
How come you didn't know since you were 2?
Yeah.
It smacks of a little bit of that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. How like again, same thing. Like some trans people will transition later on in life. Some will know from I don't know the moment that they like can formulate words. Like I just found that had a little bit of a undertone as well. So I don't know if you had anything else to add about that specific part, but I noted it as well.
Oh yeah, it's kind of part of it. I meant to like rewatch it today just for like a little spot, but like I rewatched it earlier this week, and I've already seen it like a handful of times, like little bits. Thank you for reminding me. But yeah, it does smack a little bit of that. Oh, you figured this out. And like, I'm sorry that my interest in Polly Pocket didn't exist until I was 35, but here we are. So
yeah, what was that? My interest in what?
Polly Pocket.
Polly Pocket. Never heard that term before.
Oh my God! Like,
oh wait, Polly Pocket, like the toy line.
Yeah.
Oh.
Mighty Max for girls.
Right.
Oh,
exactly.
I thought it was something like having multiple pockets or something. I'm like, is that a metaphor or something?
No, that's a real thing.
Always looking for pockets.
And haven't you heard? Women's clothes don't get pockets for some reason.
No. Although, to be fair, I get it. You want a good line. This is why I'm carrying all my shit in my fucking purse, so my ass looks awesome. There is purpose and intent here, people. I assure you. But yes, also pockets are nice.
I'm a man. I don't care about my ass. I use pockets.
I didn't either, and then all of a sudden I started to care a whole lot.
We get another gem from the Grand Arbiter. Why don't we just split her down the middle? Like, she just goes full King Solomon on everybody.
Yo, when she said that, I was like, what was going through my head? Like, her tearing up. I'm like, what the fuck?
Like I know what she meant.
Right.
I was expecting her to just pull out a meat cleaver and just Hassan chop.
Oh my God.
Because in the 24th century, everyone knows Bible stories. Everyone.
I was like, when she said that, I laughed, and I was like, is she serious? Like, is that actually something that they're going to do? Is that something they do in Star Trek?
I don't know these Bajorans. Fuck, who knows? Right? This is technically on the table.
Well, I think what she was probably meaning within the context of that scene was implying, can we remove the symbiote and put the symbiote on trial?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But doesn't it need to exist in a host to like?
Right, but I don't think the Arbiter would have known that.
Oh, okay.
If they could be in the pools on the Trill home planet.
Right, but the host will die if they do that.
Oh, that.
Yeah. Like, if the symbiote is removed, the host will die because the connection is so strong. And like the symbiote, I don't think the symbiote will live very long, like, without a host.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, there was an episode of like Next Generation, that the episode that actually introduced the Trill, where like the host died, but they saved the symbiote and actually put it in Riker for an episode, which was so weird, and also establishes that the symbiote can survive in non-Trill,
Right.
but I feel like that's like it can't survive as very long.
Well, technically, as we damn it, that's a spoiler for Discovery, and I'm going to just shut the fuck up.
That was also before they decided that Trill had spots.
Right, yes. There were some early awkward, clumsy introductions because they didn't quite know what they wanted to do with it yet for Trill on Next Gen. Especially one episode that, now that I am myself, and let's just say part of my discovery process is, well, I guess I'm getting a divorce. That episode was just a punch to the fucking feels, that one. Holy crap.
I was disappointed in Beverly.
Yes. Oh my God. I'm just gonna lay it all out there.
Lay it all out so we all get what you're saying.
Okay.
Anyone who has seen that episode of Next Generation knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay. Trans character, male body, falls in love with Crusher, and that person fall in love. Accident happens, saves the symbiote. Female body, relationship over. Punch too hard.
Yeah.
And they come in all just like, hey, we can still, I'm alive and I'm here. And he's just like, no, just very, damn it, you quite literally queered the deal on me. Boo, So, yeah, and for somebody who went through that, sucks. but sometimes they get it so fucking right, and I don't even know if they planned on it.
I was gonna say, I'm like, did they was that planned? Like, that's crazy that was even there.
Yeah, that was just that's when you go, that's enough Star Trek for today. Okay.
Hey, Jess.
Yes.
Danny's saying that your channel has some feedback noise.
Some feedback noise. Ruh-roh.
If it's not me, it's you.
I know, right? We're just trading off technical issues.
You're giving me the "it's not you, it's me" speech. I invented the "it's not you, it's me" speech. If it's anyone, it's me.
It's hard, right?
Danny, that should be better. I think that my mic was too high.
In the midst of this, we get one of my favorite bits is we get Cisco being asked to describe Curzon.
Right.
And basically, like, Curzon was one half great man, great friend, great mentor, second father, and another half dirty old drunk.
Yeah.
And also, as a bit of a side note, I mean, since you haven't seen any of the Star Trek, Jess, we do in fact get to meet Cisco's father.
Okay.
He's actually played by the legendary Brock Peters.
Brock Peters!
And again, sort of one thing about the 1990s was, it was still, for representation times, not the most progressive. I'm not sure now is that progressive even either, but that's a conversation for another time. One of the things that was really refreshing, and sort of looking back, I realized, like, wow, like, this really was ahead of its time, was showing, like, a very, like, loving relationship between an African-American father, son, and also between his father. So it's like a generational thing where I feel like, unfortunately, to this day, Black men are depicted as having terrible relationships. So the thing I was afraid that this show could have gone down easily is said, well, let's play the whole Cisco didn't have a real father, so Curzon was his stand-in. But they don't go that direction. They go the direction of, well, no, it's almost more like Curzon was his cool uncle.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Curzon was
avoided that trope.
Yeah.
He was crazy Uncle Curzon.
Yeah.
They give him this for this time. When the show was made, they give him this big, leadership role. He's the commander, and he's got this amazing relationship with his son. He's a great father. So it's good to see that.
I mean, they show him kissing him on the head. I mean, I feel like to this day, that's something they don't show on TV, period. Like, fathers being able to be emotionally vulnerable like that and affectionate with their children.
Right.
Wow.
So I like that. I see that in this.
What also really struck me is that one of the important things about Cisco is that he's not just, it's not just his personality or his physical abilities. I think one of the really great things I liked about it is that he's clearly got, a mind like a steel trap. And what I liked during this courtroom sequence was that, the son is making this, what he thinks is this grandiose point about when you mix salt and water, they become a new substance. And then Cisco uses that very point against him, saying, well, yeah, but if the water evaporates away, you're left with the salt. So you can't say that now just because Dax this is the same Dax, that this is the same symbiote, that this makes this person personally liable.
Right.
That was Cisco's big gotcha moment.
I loved it, and he had a grin on too when he said it. I loved it.
Yeah.
And I think that's important because this actually raises a really interesting question in speculative philosophy about the nature of personal identity. Because there's a large debate. People like John Locke thought that personal identity was completely reducible to if you've got the memories of somebody else. If you've got the memories of that person, you are that person. I mean, that's a bit of a gross oversimplification, but that's one theory. Whereas there's other people who talk about, no, there has to be some other kind of transcendental, like, essence to a person. So this, I thought, was an interesting kind of look into that, and a really creative way to illustrate a really otherwise kind of bizarre aspect of philosophy of the mind, especially.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm unpacking that. That's all.
Yeah, me too.
Now, something we should talk about is like what Odo's doing during all of this. And what he's doing is he's talking to the widow of the general.
Ah,
Yes.
And by the way, the general's widow is played by an actress who's been in Star Trek before. Jane and Pinhead, you would recognize her as the actress who played Data's mother over in Next Generation.
Oh.
Yeah, I did not write down her name because it was like this very very difficult to pronounce Irish name, but that's Data's mother from Next Generation.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like I've seen her in like a soap opera or something like that. Like she looked familiar.
Yeah, she's. I know she's been in a lot of stuff, but that's like what I recognized her from, like almost right away. But basically, Odo does his Odo thing on her, and basically gets her to admit that she had an affair with Curson.
Right.
Yeah. And once you hear that, like sort of the mystery kind of like the tumblers sort of fall into place, and you sort of realize that's why Jadzia is like not saying anything.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to expose,
that
like she doesn't want to like expose ruin the general's reputation. She doesn't want to expose this person who meant a great deal to Curson. It's very interesting, and then we get a scene that I have mixed feelings about, and that's sort of the scene where like Sisko kind of goes off on Jadzia.
Yeah. That scene always bothered me too, actually. From the first time I remember rewatching this series as a young adult, I thought, this not only is it seem kind of troubling to me, it just seems out of personality for the guy.
I have one quote written down that struck me as particularly problematic, and that was, "Damn it, if you were still a man."
when he raised his fist, yeah.
Yeah. I actually cringed a little bit.
Yeah.
Jane's dead.
Oh god, that like I actually liked this. I liked this episode, but that one. Oh.
Yeah, that's
I know.
you son of a bitch.
I was like Sisko's biggest fan, like because he was trying so hard, and then at that point I was like, why?
I know, right?
Well, the previous episode did establish that Sisko does like to punch things.
Okay.
True.
Like,
He
yes,
punched
what you missed last episode is Sisko basically beat the shit out of a god.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
God, for fun.
Yeah.
Don't fuck
Like,
with this guy.
essentially, like, basically a smaller scale version of the puny god scene from Adventures.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
He's
it's basically Loki when you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that scene just kind of, I get Sisko's frustration,
Mm-hmm.
but it just kind of felt a bit too aggressive.
He crossed a boundary. He definitely did.
It definitely crossed a line, and it's like it just felt very. I don't feel like it crossed a line that I had a hard time believing Sisko would cross.
Right.
I-
Because
I
usually he's so
concur.
put together and so
Yeah.
level-headed. So it was so weird to see him lose it.
Yeah,
You
it
know?
seems. I mean, it seems like he's kind of a cool as a cucumber kind of
Yeah.
character.
And that is him, like most of the time. Like,
Yeah.
But
No.
then we also have to take into account, though, like, yes, he is this logical, like, level-headed guy, but he had this amazing, like, this emotional piece does come out because he had that great relationship with Curzon. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where his, like, wise mind just slips and emotion takes over.
I agree with that. Just for me, what I find more troubling and what I really I didn't like about, and I'd be curious to see what Avery Brooks felt like when he was doing that line in that scene. The whole idea of like threatening, like if you were a guy, I would knock your lights out. It's a kind of toxic masculinity that I just don't see Sisko.
And no, Sisko is like more often than not, he is like the polar opposite of toxic masculinity. He is like, he is sort of like, he is the polar. This is something Kirk would have done.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah. Because, and if you actually watch TOS and keep in mind that it's the 60s, Kirk is an asshole.
Oh, yeah. Oh, what's fun is, this is what I recommend if you can do it. Like, if you're new to Star Trek, go watch everything but the original series, then watch the original series, and you will be incredulous throughout the entire episode, because you're going to, bitch, you are a Starfleet officer. That's, no, what? Eugene just horrified, because they just all this like real shit, and now you're just fucking around on this planet, you jackass.
The original series definitely has its moments, but it doesn't hold up as well as some of the other shows.
Like, I think the original series is one of those shows that it was more groundbreaking for its time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad it exists because it gave us all this other good stuff, but it's not. It cannot survive on its own.
Right. First televised interracial kiss. Women can't be captain of starship.
And you know, something about that. I mean, the whole like, this is the first interracial televised kiss. There's actually something I've thought about that. For those of you who haven't seen that episode, you know, that is one big thing Star Trek has is its claim to fame, is that it was the first time supposedly we saw that on network TV. But in the context of the episode, the two characters are being used as like action figures for the amusement of these like all-powerful beings. It's like,
I have a poster about that.
Oh shit.
Oh shit.
oh, nice. So yeah, no, it's like I like the progress, but it's like, couldn't you have found a happier like context? Because in the context, it's kind of creepy.
Yeah, and of course.
Go ahead, Wes.
Go ahead. No, you first.
I was just gonna relate this back to Just Dia really quick, but this was a spoiler that I read, so I'm sorry. But isn't Star Trek also in the 90s, and I think it was on Deep Space Nine later in the show, isn't it also the first televised, or one of the first televised lesbian kisses?
That's actually what I was going to bring up. Yes.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, so there you go.
That's coming.
My research.
Good segue.
We'll get there.
It's solid. There are some moments where just like, oh yeah, you just so well acted, so queer.
Oh, I love it.
My little gay heart.
I never thought that Star Wars would be a queer show, but it is. It's so cool.
Oh God! By the time you get to Discovery, Jesus, find me a
Discovery. It is all over the place.
Oh.
All bets are off. They're like gay,
Yeah.
yes.
Right?
Did Discovery introduce a trans character, like a
trans and non-binary representation in there?
Trans and non-binary?
Mm-hmm. So we have, God damn it, of course, we have Ian and we have Blue de Blasio, Ian Alexander. Ian Alexander is a trans guy, does your he, hims, and your they, them pronouns, and so it's just straight up he, hims, and Blue de Barrio is non-binary, working your they, them, solely. And, oh God, there's a pronouns thing, it's all wonderful, thank goodness.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Wouldn't have been great to have it earlier, but fuck it, we're here now, so,
Yes.
hey.
I'm liking where this is going. This is nice.
Yeah. And going back to that Cisco scene, I do like that Dax knows Cisco so well that she can talk him down just by bringing up like this like funny memory.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was really sweet. It shows that yes, this obviously Jadzia is a separate person, but like that connection that Dax has to Cisco does still exist.
Yeah.
And like in a way it always will exist.
Right.
And I like that.
Yeah, I thought that was a nice little touch. You could tell that like she was just struggling, like I said, even from the very beginning of the episode, and then she kind of like brings out that little anecdote of hey, remember that time that, and it just like it kind of like it brought him back down to earth a little bit. So
and like we also hear that like it was a time that Kursan punched out Cisco, so they even kind of tallies that back around. I'm like, which says to me that Jadzia probably could take Cisco.
Oh, I would put all the gold press that on that.
Like, we learn later that Jadzia studies Klingon martial arts. She could kick some ass.
With an actual.
oh, that's dope.
Oh.
I like her even more now.
Jadzia's awesome. But moving right along, we get back to the next day of the trial, and Odo comes in and saves the day by bringing in the widow. She admits to the whole affair.
Yeah.
Much to the chagrin of the son. And we end on this this very nice note where
before we get to the ending, I just wanted to, Tinos in the chat said, it all depends on social values of the time. Back then, they were way ahead of their time and breaking some social standards which would not hold in these days. But if they didn't do it that way, in that mindset, it wouldn't hold up and never make the impression of knocking on the door of today's standards.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Star Trek is very progressive. Star Trek also came out in 1967. We were getting some cool trans stuff in this episode that came out in the late 90s. How lucky. So, it wasn't 90s. They've always been pushing, but, they are pushing within the realm of trying to do a television show in that era.
So much you could do at the time.
So many barriers.
But I'm glad they did it because it means that Star Trek can now be as gay as it wants to be.
Yes, thank goodness.
Yeah. But we kind of wrap it up. We learned that the general was the one who committed treason and sold out his people, and the rebels kind of did him in for it. And Jadzia had been Kursan, and by extension, Jadzia had promised to keep the secret. And it's a nice scene, and we get that final quote of "Live, Jadzia Dax, live."
Yeah.
Loved it. I loved it. I had Born This Way vibes, like Lady Gaga vibes.
Yeah, you got a little bit. Get you right here in the old.
I would love to see Lady Gaga in Discovery as a Trill.
That would be dope. That would be dope.
That would be kind of dope.
She's actually in a much younger version of herself. She's actually in a show right now that I'm watching that I'm sure some of you have watched called The Sopranos. But she plays a high schooler at Tony's.
That recently.
Yeah, she was in it. Also, Perez Hilton. You know the celebrity gossiper.
Okay.
Yeah, he was in The Sopranos. Go figure.
Wow.
Yeah. It was, we're for the 4th season in, but that would be great if she was in Star Trek. I feel like she would fit right in.
Wow, that would work.
Yeah.
I've never seen The Sopranos. I'm a disgrace to my Italian heritage.
Come on.
No.
Hey, all I'll say about The Sopranos, I have watched that entire series twice through, and it's one of those things. It's one of the best TV shows ever written, but I can never watch it for fun once you've seen it in its entirety, where all the character arcs go.
Yeah, I'm starting to gather that. We're halfway through the 4th season with that, and it's taking a dark turn. But yeah.
Who'd have thought a TV show about the mob?
I know, right? Taking a dark, twisted turn. Irene, if you haven't seen it, you have to. It's good.
I will. I got to.
Yeah, it's dark though. It's dark.
I like dark.
Yeah. The thing that I noted at the end of this episode, 44 minutes, almost a kiss. Just about there.
Very close.
Very, very close. Because again, I had read the spoiler about the kiss, and I'm like, is this it? Is this gonna happen?
I definitely thought there was a kiss
until
coming.
season 3, actually.
She touched your cheek, and I was like, oh, it's happening.
It's
happening.
It would have been so cool if she kissed the old lady, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
No, I think It would have been too soon. It honestly, like, it's the
Yeah.
first time that I forgot her name, the wife, has seen
I forgot it too.
has
to be honest
has
with
seen
you.
Curzon since he died.
Right.
So like, it would have been forced. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like,
Well,
then,
especially because it's not really Curzon technically.
right, exactly,
Yep.
exactly. So I think that it's just kind of like it's building up to. I don't know if that's who she ends up kissing, but
No, it's somebody different.
okay. But still, yeah. I was like,
I thought it was coming too. I thought it was coming too. So
I'll get
you
it.
weren't the
Well-
only one that felt that.
So typically here how we wrap up is we just kind of go around the table and we just say like what each thought of the episode. I personally thought that this was a way better episode than I remembered it. Minus one or two stumbling blocks, I thought it was great. I loved the Arbiter character. I loved the issues it raised. I loved like the questions it raised. I loved the mystery stuff with Odo. It had a little bit of something for everybody.
I liked it a lot too. Again, it's the same thing, you know, not perfect, but you know, within not perfect, there's a whole realm of amazingness. And I thought the character motivations were very believable. You know, they really do a good job establishing the son has this crazy obsession of I have to know what my father was like, who killed him, who did it. I thought that they did a really good job characterizing that. And also, this is just something I'd like to mention. There's another podcast that Wes and I both listen to called the Delta Flyers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, I probably should have figured you'd like that, Jane. And in the most recent episode, a guy named Robert Duncan McNeil, he was an actor on another one of the Star Trek episodes, who has since gone on to become a director. What he said he liked about being on a Star Trek show was that they were able to do episodes that had different genres to them. So one week it could be a comedy, one week it could be a space action adventure, then the next week it was a court procedural. So I think this is a testament to that, is that this was an episode that it's kind of like an episode of Law and Order almost.
Yeah.
Star Trek could be whatever you needed it to be that week.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, there's even a few, like an episode that's a full-blown Western.
that's kind of cool.
I love that. That's a Next Generation episode where they go to the holodeck and have a cowboy adventure, and it's one of my favorites.
The ancient West. What the fuck? Like, you updated, but you still refer to it as like the West. Like, what's the new West? Like, that's the
What is it? What is it west of?
when you're in space.
It's absolutely just we need to remind people this is the 24th century and we're going to do this in the most fucking ham-fisted way we could possibly conceive. Oh, yes.
All right.
West.
Irene, your thoughts on this episode?
I really liked this episode, and that's why I hit up Jess this morning, because I was like, yo, like, you could bring so much to this show. I don't know. I thought it was great. I really liked seeing the dynamic between. Oh, one thing I pointed it out is when Cisco. There was a moment in the show towards the end when Cisco like straight up says like, that's not Curzon anymore. And he kind of said that like very solemnly, like that he had to realize that he had to let him go. Because a couple episodes ago, or whatever, towards the beginning of the season, you know, when they were sitting together and having coffee, like he was like really pushing and wondering like if Curzon was still in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then I noticed that he finally is like, no, like this is a new person that I need to get to know. You know, this isn't Curzon anymore. This is Jedzia. Like, and that really stuck out to me. So.
Yeah. I agree.
So, which of our lovely guest stars would like to go first?
Jane, you can do the honors. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, definitely different seeing it now. And definitely, you know, great for a season 1 episode of any Star Trek series that we've discussed, you know, those things tend to stumble and what have you. But yeah, you know, it's like we talked about, that chunky middle hits really hard on this one. And, you know, it's a little different. Like, you know, I've always been a girl. I just didn't kind of know it until a couple of years ago. And that's not how they do it here. But then again, that isn't everybody either. That's how I contextualize my bullshit. If you've heard one trans person story, you've heard exactly one trans person story. And everybody negotiates it in a different way. Everybody views it in a different way. What makes the most sense for you? And this is assuming you decided to stop at the second gender and you aren't going to fuck about a little bit more, which I encourage you to fuck about, please. Yeah, so it's some people view it as I was this person, now I am this, and vary a lot with how the trolls operate. I have heard this. I don't see it too often. And some people take it my way, some people take it entirely different ways. I'm just one of those boring ass binary trans people. There's many, there's so many variations of what's a Coke freestyle machine to shame. So, many ways to do this stuff.
And just one with you.
All right. Well, so like I said, I mean, this was like literally my first episode of that I've ever watched of a Star Trek show. But I feel like if someone would have said to me, which Irene essentially is kind of what you said, but if you were to say, Jess, you in particular, if you want to get into Star Trek, you should watch this particular episode. This probably would have been it. Like, so I'm really glad that this was the first one that I ever saw, because it's really put it in perspective of like what the rest of the show is going to bring. And I'm definitely going to watch. I'm really bad at watching shows. I mostly like play video games and like that's kind of what I do in my spare time. But like I will definitely continue to watch this show because I think it is really, really beautifully done. Just based off of this one episode, there's definitely a lot to unpack about the show itself. Even like in just I was in Irene's chat for I think the first or second time that you guys did this, so I could already tell that it was a really deep show and like there was a lot to talk about. But this definitely sealed the deal. So, but yeah, I 100% agree with you that like not every trans story is the same. And if I can stand on my soapbox for a second, I think that anybody that has watched this show for the first time or gets to this episode for the first time, I hope it helps a Star Trek fan with maybe no or little experience of exploring what gender means or what sexuality means. I hope that they take this and they can look at it and say, okay, like I need to like look at this a little bit more and like do a little bit more research of like just the experience of trans people. Like whether or not they actually get that in one episode is it just depends on how critical their eye is when they're looking at it. But that's kind of how I watch shows, which is why I enjoy doing this so much. But yeah, I hope that I hope that it will help people kind of gain a different perspective. So
Give them that little spark of thinking about this kind of thing, and maybe they wouldn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Hey.
The cat.
Kitty!
That's all I
Butthole.
can-
There was a kitty butt.
Explicit pussy on screen.
Oh no!
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Sorry, it was right there.
fine,
No,
it's
it's
fine.
okay. Yeah, you should-
My chat is 18 and older only, so we're good.
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
NSFW. I actually, so like for work, I use Zoom constantly, and my team and we like he'll be like in the background, like just like that, and he doesn't care. Like he loves to like be on camera, and like he'll just like come up to me like be like, "What are you doing?" But there's been times where he's like knocked over my entire computer, and they're like, "Oh, there goes Jess. Bye, Jess. See you later." So, yep. Oh, Britt just said board hole in my chat.
Oh, and then mine.
And
Oh God.
My son is also named Borthole.
his name is Kylo, but maybe his name should be board hole.
Maybe. Nickname.
Save it for the next cat. All right,
All right,
I would
guys.
say this is a very successful discussion.
Yeah.
We love Jane, Jess. Thank you so much for coming on. This was great having some additional perspectives. You both have, as far as I'm concerned, you both have a standing invite to come back whenever you want.
Yep.
Oh, thank you.
Yep. You guys
Yeah.
really brought so much to today, like today's episode. You guys really brought so much, and I'm really happy you guys came.
Yeah.
I'm so happy. I mean, I can only speak for myself, but I'm so happy I'm here. Like it was awesome.
Oh, I'm very happy I'm here. It's like, ooh, they're gonna let me talk about the stuff that I talk about all the time anyway. This is gonna be fucking great. So yeah.
That's why we started this. Like me and Pinhead just like talk on the phone about this stuff all the time. We figured someone must want to hear it.
Surely there are others that will enjoy this level of chicanery, and I believe you felt.
Yeah. Still with us, Pinhead? You're a little quiet over there.
Oh, no, I've been having a really bad heartburn episode, so I've been having to.
Oh shit.
Oh no.
Okay,
I
man.
feel better.
Tom.
All right. We gotta lay off them tacos.
I wish it was tacos, man.
I had really bad
Taco in over a month. I've been on this very like restrictive diet.
I had last night. I had chocolate peanut butter cookies, and they were or it was 2 nights ago actually, and they gave me like the worst acid reflux in the entire world. It was awful, but it's okay. They were worth it. 100%. Sometimes it's just worth it.
Sometimes you just gotta do this for work.
Exactly.
Acid reflux because you're worth it.
Exactly. Before we go, guys, can I take a quick screenshot of us?
Yeah, of course.
All right, cool. Everybody get your smileys on. All right, hold on. You ready? All right. 1, 2, 3. Yay. Hold on. Let me just make sure it looked okay. Oh my God, so cute. Love it. I'm going to share it on Twitter.
Yeah, you're gonna have
immediately.
to make sure you send that to me.
I always have to get this. This is probably one of my favorite like pieces of fan memorabilia.
That is so cool.
Because once upon a time I used to like write about Diastad in my blog, and Nana Visitor, who plays Kira, liked one of those tweets about it. And then I met her at Kineticon, and she's like, "Oh wait, you're the guy with the blog." I thought I was gonna melt.
That's so cool.
I've been sitting on this the whole time, and I think to bring it out now at the end like an idiot.
Oh, that is dope.
Wow.
I don't even know what that is. Is it real?
That
is a Klingon Batleth that I got at a con a couple of years ago. It is
for
not
you
charged.
noobs.
It must be $70, and it's some of the best $70 goddamn dollars I have ever spent. This is a Klingon sword.
That is a traditional Klingon weapon.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool, actually. It's like the equivalent of like for me, like having I would love to have like a real life like identical like master sword from The Legend of Zelda. That'd be pretty dope.
Ooh, that would be
amazing.
That'd be so
if
cool.
I need to be a little bit more casual, I can just Federation it up with the pager. So come on, go.
Oh, that's cool.
I do have an unopened box for Star Trek Monopoly.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Nice. My friend Slane got it to me for Christmas as a gag gift.
I love it.
This came out for Star Trek Insurrection, so this phaser is legally old enough to drink.
Oh wow! Something good came out of Star Trek Insurrection.
I shit you not. Yeah. Well, a British tar. I mean,
oh, okay. Well, yeah. There's the scene where Picard and Worf sing Gilbert and Sullivan. That's just amazing.
Fucking dope.
I know.
All right, guys.
They sing Gilbert and there's like, we need to save data. Let's sing Gilbert and Sullivan and project the lyrics on the view screen with a bouncing ball.
We invented a whole new ship class with this sequence. What are we gonna do? Gilbert and Sullivan. Aye!
No way in hell was that not like either Stewart or Spiner or both just saying, we need to sing in this scene.
Right. Michael Dorn just going along with it.
And like, I love that scene too, because like Worf is just like sing, Worf, sing. He's like, and then he finally does, and it's like, yeah.
Have you heard of Gilbert and Sullivan, Worf? Sorry, I haven't had time to meet some of the new crew members. God damn it, Worf.
Oh, I cannot wait for Worf to show up on this show.
So, guys, what episode's coming up next week that we're going to be watching?
All right. Our next episode is I believe
it's episode 8. We know that.
Yeah, hold on. I forget what it's called. I know what it is. I just forget what it's called. I can find that in a jiffy. It is called The Passenger.
All right, guys.
Which I believe is an Odo episode.
Oh, great. I love Odo.
Yeah.
All right.
Odo's awesome. I think if it's the episode I'm thinking about, it's an episode that gives us hints at Odo's origin.
Okay. Yeah, because I know he doesn't know it, so.
Yeah.
All right. So everybody, if you want to tune in next week, make sure you watch episode 8 on season 1 of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And we will be back here next weekend. And thank you so much to our special guests. Like Wes said, you guys are welcome to come back anytime.
Thank you.
But this was a lot of fun. It really was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with you guys. And thank you so much for everybody in the chat who was, so involved and really interactive. And I'm happy that all of you guys came. So we're going to wrap it up. And I hope everybody has a great evening. And I'll see you when I see you.
Bye, everybody.